now, which is a little bit scary. I guess on the world stage, last week we were talking about just getting close to 20 million. There's now 21.6 million people confirmed with this illness. And for Australia, another 2,500 cases this week. So we're going to roll on through. So those photos there, I think most of us recognise most of those places. And there's one thing missing. It's the people, which is actually what we want at the moment, is the people missing. So across Australia, Victoria, vast swathes of Victoria are still in almost a full lockdown. New South Wales is still, they keep talking about being on a knife edge. 20 odd cases a day is a bit nerve-wracking for the public health people. If one of those people spreads it to 20 more people and you're in all sorts of trouble. And for us in South Australia, we had that little mini outbreak, or whatever you want to call it, and they actually put more than 1,000 people into isolation. I'm not sure if everyone knows that, but they basically took a scorched earth policy of everyone who even vaguely might have been near that person got told to stay home for a couple of weeks. I think that's something for us to keep in mind here as we move forward through this. So where is Australia headed? Well, I've kept the same pretty blue picture I put up last week, and now there's a lovely green one to go with it. And I say lovely because the green picture shows a curve that dips quite solidly. Last week I said I hope we will pass the peak, and we can show now that the data is clear that we have. And that's a big part of that is due to the stage 4 lockdown, but some of that's individual as well. And so as we look at that, we've really got to keep in mind that individual component. How about New Zealand? They got 102 days of no cases that weren't explainable, so not people in quarantine. And now they had, from 4 cases, they put a whole city, 1.5 million people. After they have found 4 cases in a family, they put a whole city into lockdown. And they've extended that lockdown. That's another 12 days. It was going to be just last week through to Friday. And they've extended that for another 12 days now because they've found a few more people. And that's something, again, for us to keep in mind here in South Australia, because that's fairly close to what the policy looks like it's going to be here. I haven't obviously got the policy documents because I'm not part of that team. But if we want to control this, the way of controlling it is to make sure it doesn't get out of hand. So South Australia, step 1 is to test and contact trace aggressively. So we moved from 1,500 to 2,000 tests a day, was what it was running at for several months. And 3 weeks ago it jumped to somewhere near 6,000, and it's stayed between 5,000 and 6,000 every day since. And if you find somebody, isolate and contain everyone around them as quickly as you can. And there's a new concept that's going to come this week. So by next weekend, we will have some of our ushers will be COVID marshals. We're not quite sure what that's going to mean at this stage, but it's a new terminology that SA Health is bringing in, that there'll be people who have to do some special training, and then their job will be to make sure that any event that happens is kept as safe as it can be. And the last one there, I've purposely got that box a bit bigger, because the last one's actually the important one. And I've got a special demonstration that I did on myself yesterday for how often do you have to get things right. So I had a week off work and I've been doing some paving. For the people here at home, you can hopefully see there's a pretty sturdy hammer. What shouldn't you do when you're using these? Hit your thumb. Oops. I reckon I swung this thing 4,000, 5,000 times yesterday. I'm doing some paving and we need to chip some of a rock retaining wall out the way. Only one of those times did I hit my thumb. The other 3,900, 4,900 times, I didn't hit my thumb. But the one time hitting my thumb, I work as a doctor. Do you think that I can now cleanse that hand? So can I work tomorrow? No. So if we look at that, sorry, I'll get rid of my toys. If we look at that as an example, and playing the trombone was fun today, that's what I used to hold the slide. Didn't work so well. If you keep that in mind with coronavirus, if we think that we've got a bit of a sniffle, but our job is more important, or staying home's not convenient, or et cetera, and we actually do have coronavirus and we spread it, or if we decide that we're only got a little bit of a sniffle, we'll come to the meeting, it's okay, and we spread it, then all those people who we come in contact with whether they catch it or not, will end up in a lockdown for 14 days. And we know that from this lockdown that mental health is causing a lot of trouble, and there's some people aren't coming out of lockdown in very good shape. So my throbbing thumb is reminding me, and I guess my job every Sunday is to keep reminding all of us that we really should be remembering to follow that individual responsibility. Which brings us to the last slide. And we like to talk about our liberties and our freedoms. And in Galatians 5, it says, "For you, brethren, having been called to liberty, only do not use liberty as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, you shall love your neighbour as yourself." I've got a quote there from a Frenchman sort of in the late 1800s. Liberty is the right to choose. Freedom is the result of that choice. So we want to keep our personal freedoms, and we want to keep being able to move around, then we need to remember that that liberty is showing love. At the moment, showing love is making sure you're following the correct instructions and keeping your distance, not losing contact. People keep contact with the phone, etc. But also, if you're a new person and you're hearing these things, then a lot of the liberty we've got is through the Holy Spirit, as you've heard today. And we'd like to offer you more information on that if you'd like to get it. Thank you very much.